Miss Brown's class. So today we're going to talk about circles, and these have a few different properties than the regular polygons that we've been discussing in class. So a circle doesn't have any sides, so when it comes to finding area and perimeter, we can't multiply the lengths of the sides and we can't add the lengths of the sides because there are no set straight lines, okay? So since there's no sides, we need to know a few vocabulary words before we get started, okay? First of all, I have diameter. Diameter is the width across the entire circle at the widest point, okay? The diameter will always cross through the center of the circle, okay? The radius is half the width of the circle, okay? It goes from the center, the middle point, to the outer edge, okay? And this radius could go here, it could go from the center this direction, that direction. It doesn't matter because it should always be stretching the same distance because a circle is equal on all ends, okay? So that's called a radius. I remember that the shorter word radius is the shorter distance. The longer word diameter is the longer distance. Next word we have to remember is circumference. I wrote it going around the circle because this is a fancy word here for perimeter. Like I said, there's no sides that we can add up here, so there's a formula that we're going to be learning, okay? And this is pi times diameter, okay? Now pi is a number that we have not learned yet. Pi is an irrational number equal to about 3.14. When I say irrational, that means it is a decimal that keeps on going forever and ever. It does not repeat, okay? On your calculator, you actually have a pi button somewhere here. If you press it, you'll see that there's no real pattern in these numbers. They're all completely random, so that's why we call it irrational. So in order to find the circumference of a circle, you would multiply this number 3.14 times the diameter. So if I said that the diameter of this circle was, let's say the diameter is 12 feet. So what's 12 feet times 3.14? All right? You are welcome to use your calculator on all of these assignments that you have. And you would get that the circumference is about 37.68. Okay, and that is feet. I need to keep the same units that I started with, okay? Now, there's a different process if I'm trying to find area, okay? We've worked with area with all sorts of shapes. I know we already did triangles, rectangles, parallelograms, all that, okay? But once again, no sides to work with. So here we're going to use this formula, pi times radius. That little 2 means squared, or to the second power. So I'm still using this 3.14 number. So 3.14 times the radius. So if the diameter was 12, and I said radius is half of the diameter, I would know that the radius should be 6 because half of 12 is 6. But now 6 squared, or 6 to the second power, means 6 times 6 again, okay? So when I do order of operations, you do exponent first. So 6 times 6 is 36. So 3.14 times 36, no, those were feet, remember, keep labeling your work. Okay, so what happens when I get 3.14 times 36? Once again, feel free to use your calculator. I do not expect this to be mental math. Okay, so I got about 113 and 4/100ths of a foot squared, okay? Now the reason it's squared, or I put a little 2 up here, is we're talking about area. Whenever we're talking about area, whether it's rectangles or triangles, we're always talking about a unit squared, okay? I know in class we had looked at tiles on the floor and I showed you how each one of those was representing a square foot. This is the same type of concept here, okay? So area is always referring to square units, whether it's feet, inches, centimeters, doesn't matter. Make sure it's squared. Circumference is just measuring the distance around. So in these cases, the word problems will typically be talking about putting up some sort of fence or border that goes around something, perhaps putting a label on a can of soup or something like that. That distance is linear, that means it forms a line. So it would just be feet or inches, whatever the unit is, you do not square it. Okay? So these are the basics that you need to know with circles. Basically, please remember that the diameter is twice as long as the radius, or the radius is half the size of the diameter. These two formulas are going to be incredibly important, okay? I will post them on your Canvas page so that way you can go back and look at them. When you're doing your assignments, feel free, write these down, look back at these formulas. These are going to help you, okay? All right, I'll see you again next week for next lesson.